Priya had always believed that love would find her naturally. At 23, she worked as a teacher in Mumbai, living independently in a small apartment her parents had helped her rent. Every morning, she would wake up excited about her day, greeting her students with genuine warmth and spending her evenings reading books or video calling her college friends who had scattered across different cities. Her parents, Rajesh and Sunita, lived in their hometown of Pune, where her father ran a modest textile business. They were traditional people who had married through arrangement themselves 30 years ago. Despite their conservative background, they had supported Priya's education and career choices, which made her feel grateful and secure in their love. The first sign that something was different came during her monthly visit home. Usually, her mother would spend hours asking about her work, her friends, and her daily routine. This time, Sunita seemed distracted, frequently glancing at her husband during conversations. Rajesh, normally talkative and jovial, appeared unusually quiet during dinner. "Beta, you're 23 now," her mother said carefully one evening as they sat together folding clothes. "Many of your cousins are already married and settled." Priya laughed, not sensing any underlying concern. "Mama, I'm happy with my life right now. Marriage will happen when it happens." Her mother nodded but didn't seem convinced. "Your father and I were thinking, maybe it's time to start looking for a suitable boy for you." The suggestion didn't alarm Priya immediately. She had grown up knowing that arranged marriages were common in their community. Many of her friends had met their husbands through family introductions and were genuinely happy. She had always imagined that when the time came, her parents would present her with options, and she would have the final say. "If you find someone nice, I don't mind meeting him," Priya replied, continuing to fold her clothes. "But I want to get to know him properly before making any decisions." Her parents exchanged a quick glance that she didn't notice. "Of course, Beta. We only want your happiness," her father said from across the room. Over the next few weeks, Priya noticed subtle changes in her parents' behavior during their phone calls. They would ask unusual questions about her work schedule, when she might be able to take time off, and whether she had any important commitments coming up. When she mentioned a school trip she was organizing, her mother seemed disappointed that it would keep her busy for the next month. "Is everything okay at home?" Priya asked during one call. "You both seem worried about something." "Nothing to worry about," her father assured her. "We're just planning some family events and wanted to make sure you could attend." Priya accepted this explanation, though something felt off. Her parents had never been ones to plan elaborate family gatherings, preferring simple celebrations at home. The truth began to surface during her next visit home. As she entered the house, she noticed her mother had been cooking elaborate meals all week, far more food than their small family could consume. The house was spotlessly clean, and her mother had even bought new curtains for the living room. "Are we expecting guests?" Priya asked, noting the unusual preparations. Her mother hesitated. "Yes, actually. The Sharma family is coming to visit us next week." Priya knew the Sharma family vaguely. They were successful business people from their community, known for their wealth and social connections. Mr. Sharma owned several electronics stores across Maharashtra, and the family was well respected in their social circle. "That's nice. Is there a special occasion?" Priya inquired innocently. Again, her parents exchanged glances. Her father cleared his throat. "They have a son, Vikram. He's 28, well-educated, and runs part of the family business. They're interested in meeting you." The words hit Priya like a sudden realization. This wasn't just a casual meeting. This was a formal proposal visit. Her heart began to race as she understood the implications of all the recent preparations and her parents' unusual behavior. "You mean they want to meet me for marriage?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, Beta," her mother said, softly. "They approached us through your Uncle Kumar. Vikram has seen your photograph and is very interested in meeting you." Priya felt a mix of emotions. She wasn't entirely opposed to arranged marriage, but she had expected to be part of the process from the beginning. The fact that discussions had already taken place without her knowledge made her feel somewhat excluded from decisions about her own life. "What did you tell them?" she asked. "We told them that we would arrange a meeting if you were agreeable," her father replied. "The final decision is always yours, Priya. We would never force you into anything." Despite feeling slightly overwhelmed, Priya appreciated her parents' assurance. She had heard stories of families pressuring their daughters into unwanted marriages, but her parents had always been reasonable and supportive. "Can you tell me more about him?" she asked, settling into a chair. Her mother's face lit up with excitement. "He's very well educated, Beta. He has a master's degree in business and speaks English fluently. The family is financially stable, and they have a good reputation in the community. Your Uncle Kumar says Vikram is a responsible and respectful young man." "Does he know that I work and want to continue my career?" Priya asked, this being her primary concern. "Yes, we mentioned that," her father confirmed. They seemed supportive of educated working women. Over the next few days, Priya found herself curious about Vikram despite her initial surprise. She asked her Uncle Kumar about him and learned that he was indeed well regarded in business circles. Friends who knew the family spoke positively about their values and character. Slowly, Priya began to warm up to the idea of meeting him. She had always trusted her parents' judgment, and they had never steered her wrong before. If they felt this was a good match, perhaps it was worth exploring. However, what Priya didn't know was that her parents had already given the Sharma family a tentative agreement, pending her approval. In their minds, this was merely a formality. They were confident that once she met Vikram, she would agree to the marriage. The weight of expectations was building around her, though she remained unaware of just how much her parents had already committed to this alliance. The stage was set for a meeting that would change her life forever, but whether that change would bring happiness or complications remained to be seen. The morning of the Sharma family's visit arrived with unusual fanfare in the Gupta household. Sunita had been awake since 5 in the morning, preparing traditional sweets and snacks. She had laid out her best china and decorated the living room with fresh flowers. Priya watched her mother's nervous energy with a mixture of amusement and anxiety. "Mama, you're more nervous than I am," Priya observed as she helped arrange the cushions on the sofa for the 3rd time. "This is important, Beta," her mother replied, adjusting her sari. "First impressions matter in these situations." Priya had chosen to wear a simple but elegant salwar kameez in navy blue, something that made her feel comfortable, yet presentable. She had decided to approach this meeting with an open mind, curious to see if she and Vikram would connect naturally. The Sharma family arrived precisely at the agreed time, demonstrating their punctuality and respect for social customs. Mr. Sharma was a distinguished-looking man in his 50s, wearing a crisp white shirt and formal trousers. His wife, dressed in an expensive silk sari, carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to social gatherings. Behind them walked Vikram. Priya's first impression of Vikram was that he looked exactly like his photograph, which was reassuring. He was tall, well-groomed, and carried himself with quiet confidence. He greeted her parents respectfully, touching their feet in traditional manner, which clearly pleased them. The initial conversation followed predictable patterns. The families exchanged pleasantries about health, business, and mutual acquaintances. Priya served tea and sweets, observing Vikram discreetly as he interacted with her parents. He seemed polite and well-spoken, answering questions about his business and future plans with confidence. "Vikram has expanded our electronics business into online sales," his father announced proudly. "He's very forward-thinking and understands modern market trends." "That's impressive," Rajesh responded. "These days, young people need to adapt to technology quickly." Throughout this exchange, Priya noticed that Vikram occasionally glanced at her, but he seemed somewhat formal and reserved. She wondered if He was as nervous as she was about this unusual situation. After about an hour of family conversation, Sunita suggested that Priya and Vikram might like to talk privately. This was the moment Priya had been both anticipating and dreading. They were directed to the small balcony overlooking her mother's kitchen garden, where they could speak without being overheard. "This is a bit awkward, isn't it?" Vikram said, with a slight smile, breaking the ice immediately. Priya felt relieved by his acknowledgement of the situation's strangeness. "Yes, it really is. I've never done anything like this before." "Neither have I, actually," he admitted. "My parents have been mentioning marriage for the past year, but this is my first formal meeting." They spent the next 30 minutes in surprisingly comfortable conversation. Vikram asked about her teaching career, and she was pleased to find that he seemed genuinely interested in her work. He shared stories about his business challenges and his plans to modernize his father's traditional retail approach. "Do you plan to continue working after marriage?" he asked directly. "Yes, definitely," Priya replied firmly. "Teaching is very important to me." "That's good," Vikram nodded. "I think working women bring valuable perspectives to families. My sister is a doctor, and she's managed both her career and family very well." This response encouraged Priya significantly. Many traditional families still expected women to prioritize household responsibilities over careers. However, as their conversation continued, Priya began to notice certain aspects of Vikram's personality that gave her pause. He spoke extensively about his business achievements and seemed very focused on financial success and social status. While these weren't negative qualities, she found herself wondering if they shared similar values and life perspectives. When he mentioned his 5-bedroom house and his plans to buy a luxury car, Priya felt a disconnect. She valued comfort and security, but material possessions had never been central to her happiness. She preferred spending money on books, travel experiences, and helping her students rather than accumulating expensive items. "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" she asked, hoping to discover shared interests. "I like playing golf and attending business networking events," he replied. "I also enjoy watching cricket and going to good restaurants." Priya realized that their leisure interests were quite different. She enjoyed reading, hiking, watching movies, and spending quiet time with close friends. The activities Vikram mentioned seemed more social and status-oriented than the simple pleasures she preferred. Despite these differences, she appreciated his honesty and straightforward communication style. He wasn't trying to impress her with false claims or exaggerated stories. She could sense that he was a decent person, even if they might not be perfectly compatible. When they rejoined their families, both sets of parents looked at them expectantly. Priya felt the weight of everyone's hopes and assumptions about how the meeting had gone. "We had a nice conversation," Vikram told the assembled group diplomatically. "Yes, it was good to get to know each other a bit," Priya added, matching his neutral tone. After the Sharma family left, Priya's parents immediately bombarded her with questions about her impressions of Vikram. "He seems like a very nice boy," her mother said enthusiastically. "Well-educated, well-mannered, and from a good family." "What did you think of him?" her father asked directly. Priya chose her words carefully. "He's definitely a good person. We had a pleasant conversation." Her parents interpreted this measured response as approval, though Priya had intended to remain non-committal while she processed her feelings about the meeting. "The Sharma family was very impressed with you," her mother continued excitedly. "Mrs. Sharma complimented your cooking and your respectful behavior." What Priya didn't realize was that while she was considering her options and reflecting on the meeting, both families had interpreted the pleasant conversation as mutual interest. Her parents were already mentally planning the next steps in the marriage process. That evening, as Priya lay in bed thinking about the day's events, she felt confused about her emotions. Vikram wasn't unpleasant or unsuitable, but she hadn't felt any particular connection or excitement about the prospect of marrying him. She wondered if this was normal in arranged marriages or if she should have felt something more definitive. She decided to give herself more time to think and perhaps suggest another meeting before making any decisions. However, she had underestimated how quickly traditional marriage negotiations could progress once both families perceived mutual interest. The wheels of arrangement were already turning faster than she realized, and her window for careful consideration was smaller than she assumed. 3 days after the meeting, Priya was in her classroom organizing lesson plans when her phone rang. Her mother's excited voice filled the room even before she could properly say hello. "Beta, the most wonderful news. Mr. Sharma called your father this morning. They want to move forward with the marriage proposal. They're very impressed with you and think you would be perfect for Vikram." Priya felt her stomach tighten. "Mama, slow down. What exactly did they say?" "They want to have the engagement ceremony next month and the wedding within 6 months. Isn't that exciting?" Mrs. Sharma said she's never seen Vikram so positive about a marriage proposal before. The speed of this development caught Priya completely off guard. She had expected weeks or months of gradual getting to know each other, perhaps more meetings and conversations before any formal commitments were made. "But Mama, we only met once. Don't you think we should spend more time getting to know each other before making such big decisions?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Beta, what's there to know? He's a good boy from a good family. You both talked nicely, and everyone was happy with the meeting. In our time, people got married after one meeting and lived happily for 50 years. Priya realized that her parents viewed the situation very differently than she did. For them, the successful meeting had confirmed their initial assessment that this was a suitable match. The idea of a prolonged courtship period seemed unnecessary and potentially problematic. "I need more time to think about this," Priya said carefully. "Think about what, exactly?" Her father's voice came on the line. He had apparently been listening to the conversation. "Vikram is everything we could want for you. He's educated, successful, respectful, and from a family that matches our values. What concerns do you have?" Priya struggled to articulate her hesitations without seeming ungrateful or unreasonable. Her concerns weren't about Vikram's character or suitability on paper, but rather about the lack of emotional connection and the rushed timeline. "I just feel like we should get to know each other better before making such a permanent commitment," she explained. "You'll have plenty of time to get to know each other after the engagement," her mother interjected. "That's what the engagement period is for." That evening, Priya called her best friend Meera, who had moved to Bangalore after getting married through a similar arrangement 2 years earlier. "Meera, I need your advice about something important," Priya began, and proceeded to describe the entire situation. Meera listened patiently before responding. "Priya, I understand your concerns because I felt the same way. But sometimes in arranged marriages, love grows after commitment rather than before. My husband and I weren't madly in love during our engagement, but we developed deep affection and understanding over time." "But did you feel ready to commit so quickly?" Priya asked. "Not really," Meera admitted. "But I trusted my parents' judgment, and it worked out well. However, every situation is different. If you have serious doubts, you should speak up." The conversation helped Priya realize that her feelings weren't unusual, but it didn't resolve her uncertainty about how to proceed. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Priya, her parents had already begun making commitments based on their assumption of her agreement. Rajesh had told Mr. Sharma that they were delighted with the proposal and were ready to begin planning the engagement ceremony. Sunita had started looking at wedding venues and discussing catering options with her sisters. The next morning, Priya received an unexpected phone call from Vikram himself. "Hi, Priya. I hope I'm not disturbing you," he said politely. "I wanted to talk to you about our family's discussions." "I'm glad you called," Priya replied honestly. "I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed by how quickly everything is moving." "I understand completely," Vikram said. To be honest, I feel the same way. My parents are already talking about engagement dates, and I think we should have more conversations before making such big decisions. Priya felt relief wash over her. At least Vikram shared her concerns about the timeline. Would you like to meet again? Just the two of us this time? He suggested. Maybe we could have coffee and talk more casually without our families present. That sounds like a good idea, Priya agreed. They arranged to meet the following Saturday at a coffee shop in Pune, where Priya would be visiting her parents for the weekend. When Priya told her parents about Vikram's call and their plan to meet, again she was surprised by their reaction. Why does he need to meet you again? Her mother asked suspiciously. Is there some problem? No, Mama. There's no problem. We just want to get to know each other better before the engagement. Her father frowned. Beta, too much talking and meeting before engagement is not good. It creates unnecessary complications. The families have agreed, you both liked each other, and that should be enough. But Papa, this is my marriage. Shouldn't I be completely sure about my decision? Of course you should be sure, he replied. But you've already met him and found him suitable. What more is there to discuss? Priya realized that her parents viewed her request for more time as a sign of doubt or reluctance, which worried them. In their experience, prolonged decision-making often led to problems and complications that could derail good matches. That weekend, her meeting with Vikram went better than expected. Without the formal atmosphere of family introductions, they were both more relaxed and natural. He confided that he also felt pressured by the rapid timeline, but was trying to balance his own preferences with his parents' expectations. My parents have been looking for a suitable girl for me for over a year, he explained. They're relieved to have found someone they approve of, and they're worried that delays might create problems. I feel the same pressure, Priya admitted. Everyone seems to think that because we had one pleasant conversation, everything should proceed automatically. They spent 2 hours talking about their expectations for marriage, their career goals, and their concerns about the arranged marriage process. While Priya still didn't feel a romantic connection, she developed more respect for Vikram as a thoughtful and honest person. However, when she returned home, she discovered that her parents had interpreted her second meeting with Vikram as confirmation of her commitment to the marriage. Her mother had already begun inviting relatives to the engagement ceremony and had started shopping for clothes and jewelry. Mama, I haven't said yes to the marriage yet, Priya protested. But you met him again and seemed happy, her mother replied, looking confused. What are you waiting for? Priya realized that she was caught in a web of assumptions and expectations that were growing stronger each day. Her parents had moved beyond seeking her approval to assuming her consent, and extracting herself from this situation was becoming increasingly complicated. 2 weeks later, Priya discovered the full extent of the commitments her parents had made without her explicit consent. She came home from work to find her mother on the phone with a caterer, discussing menu options for 300 guests at an engagement ceremony. 300 people? Priya asked in shock after her mother ended the call. Yes, Beta. Your father and I decided we should have a proper celebration. The Sharma family is well known in our community, and we want to make a good impression. But, Mama, I still haven't given you a definite answer about the marriage. Her mother looked at her with genuine confusion and concern. Priya, what do you mean? You met Vikram twice, you both got along well, and the families have agreed. The engagement is scheduled for next month. What answer are you talking about? Priya realized that, in her parents' minds, her participation in the meetings and her polite interactions with Vikram had constituted agreement. The idea that she might still be undecided seemed incomprehensible to them. That evening, her father came home with invitation cards that had already been printed. Priya's hands trembled as she read the ornate text announcing her engagement to Vikram Sharma. Papa, you printed invitations without asking me? Rajesh looked hurt by her reaction. Beta, why are you creating problems now? Everything has been decided. The Sharma family has bought the engagement ring, we've booked the hall, and the priest has confirmed an auspicious date. You can't just change your mind at this point." "But I never actually said yes to the marriage," Priya protested, feeling trapped and confused. "You didn't say no either," her mother pointed out. "You met him willingly, you talked to him pleasantly, and you never expressed any objections. How were we supposed to interpret your behavior?" Priya felt the weight of cultural expectations pressing down on her. She realized that her polite participation in the process had been interpreted as consent, and backing out now would cause significant embarrassment and financial loss for both families. That night, she called Vikram, hoping he might understand her dilemma. "Vikram, I'm feeling very overwhelmed by how fast everything is moving. My parents have already made so many arrangements without really asking for my final decision." There was a long pause before he responded. "Priya, I'm in the same situation. My mother has already distributed sweets to our neighbors announcing our engagement. My father has made business commitments based on this alliance. I'm feeling trapped, too." "So what do we do?" Priya asked desperately. "I don't know," Vikram admitted. "If either of us backs out now, it will create a huge scandal. Both our families will face social embarrassment, and finding future matches might become difficult." Priya felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had never intended to deceive anyone or create complications, but her attempt to be respectful and open-minded had somehow become interpreted as agreement to a lifelong commitment. The next morning, her Aunt Kavita arrived unexpectedly from Delhi. She had come specifically to help with engagement preparations and brought expensive gifts for the ceremony. "I'm so happy for you, Beta," Kavita auntie said, embracing Priya warmly. "Vikram is such a good match. Your parents have done an excellent job finding him for you." As relatives began arriving from different cities and expensive preparations continued, around her, Priya felt increasingly guilty about her uncertainty. Everyone was investing time, money, and emotions into her wedding, and her hesitation seemed selfish and inconsiderate. However, her doubts were becoming stronger rather than weaker. During a quiet moment with her cousin Sita, she attempted to express her concerns. "Sita, did you feel completely sure when you got engaged to Rohit?" Priya asked. "Not completely," Sita admitted. "But I knew he was a good person and our families matched well. Love developed gradually after marriage. That's normal in arranged marriages. But what if love doesn't develop? What if we remain just polite strangers living in the same house?" Sita looked concerned by this question. "Priya, are you having serious doubts about Vikram? If so, you need to speak up now before the engagement." "I don't know if they're serious doubts or just normal nervousness," Priya replied honestly. "Think about it this way," Sita suggested. "Is there anything specifically wrong with Vikram that would make you unhappy? Or are you just scared about marriage in general?" This question helped Priya clarify her thoughts. There wasn't anything fundamentally wrong with Vikram. He was kind, educated, respectful, and financially stable. Her concerns were more about compatibility, emotional connection, and the rushed timeline rather than any character flaws on his part. 2 days before the scheduled engagement, Priya made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She asked her parents to arrange a private meeting with the Sharma family to discuss her concerns openly. "Beta, what concerns?" her mother asked frantically. "The engagement is in 2 days. All the arrangements are made. What will we tell people?" "I need to be honest about my feelings before we make this commitment official," Priya said firmly. That evening, both families gathered in the Gupta living room for what was supposed to be a final coordination meeting but had become an emergency discussion about Priya's hesitations. "I want to be completely honest with everyone," Priya began nervously. "I think Vikram is a wonderful person, and I have great respect for him and your family. But I feel like we're rushing into this engagement without really knowing if we're compatible as life partners." The room fell silent. Mrs. Sharma looked shocked, while Priya's parents appeared mortified by this unexpected development. Mr. Sharma spoke first. Beta, what exactly are your concerns? Has Vikram done something inappropriate? No, absolutely not, Priya replied quickly. Vikram has been nothing but respectful and kind. My concerns are about whether we truly understand each other's personalities, values, and expectations for marriage. Vikram, who had been quiet until this point, surprised everyone by speaking up. Actually, I share some of Priya's concerns. I also feel like we've been caught up in family enthusiasm without really examining our own feelings about this relationship. His parents looked stunned by this revelation. They had assumed that their son was completely satisfied with the arrangement. What are you both saying? Mrs. Sharma asked in a strained voice. The engagement is in 2 days. The hall is booked, the catering is arranged, and all our relatives are coming. You can't just decide to cancel everything now. Priya felt the full weight of the social and financial commitments that had been made on her behalf. She realized that her desire for more time and certainty was colliding with practical realities and family obligations that were much larger than her individual preferences. The evening ended without resolution, with both families agreeing to discuss the situation further the next day. Priya went to bed knowing that she had opened a conversation that could change everything, but uncertain about whether she had done the right thing or created an irreversible crisis. The next morning brought chaos to the Gupta household. Relatives who had traveled from distant cities for the engagement were arriving, unaware of the crisis that had developed the previous evening. Priya's maternal grandmother, who had come from her village after months of planning, embraced her warmly and presented her with family jewelry that had been passed down for generations. Beta, you look worried, her grandmother observed with the sharp intuition of someone who had witnessed many family dramas over her 75 years. Is everything all right? Priya struggled to maintain composure as more relatives arrived with gifts, sweets, and congratulations. Each arrival made the possibility of canceling the engagement seem more devastating and complicated. Meanwhile, her parents were in emergency consultations with close family members, trying to find a solution that would satisfy everyone's concerns without causing social disgrace. Her uncle Kumar, who had initially introduced the families, felt particularly responsible for the situation. Maybe we can postpone the engagement by a few weeks, he suggested. Give the young people more time to get comfortable with each other. But what will we tell all the guests? Sunita worried aloud. The hall booking will be lost, the catering advance is non-refundable, and people have already made travel arrangements. Around noon, Vikram arrived unexpectedly at their house. He looked as stressed and conflicted as Priya felt. I need to talk to Priya privately, he told her parents. I think we need to figure out what we really want before our families make any more decisions. They walked to a nearby park where they could speak without being overheard by the numerous relatives now occupying the Gupta house. Priya, I couldn't sleep last night, Vikram began. I kept thinking about what you said, and I realized that I've been going along with this arrangement without really examining my own feelings. What do you mean? Priya asked. I mean that I've been so focused on pleasing my parents and meeting their expectations that I haven't thought seriously about whether I'm ready for marriage or whether we're right for each other. Priya felt both relief and apprehension hearing these words. Relief that Vikram shared her doubts, but apprehension about what this mutual uncertainty meant for their family's expectations. So what are you thinking? She asked carefully. Vikram was quiet for several minutes before responding. I think we have 3 options. We can go through with the engagement and hope that understanding develops over time. We can postpone everything and take more time to get to know each other, despite the complications this will cause, or we can be honest that we don't feel ready for this commitment and face the consequences. What consequences do you think there would be if we decided not to go ahead? Priya asked. Social embarrassment for both families, financial losses, and probably difficulty finding future matches. Vikram replied honestly. Our parents would be devastated, and extended family members would be confused and possibly judgmental. As they sat on a park bench discussing their dilemma, Priya realized that this conversation was the most honest and meaningful interaction they had ever had. She found herself respecting Vikram's thoughtfulness and integrity, even as they contemplated disappointing their families. "Can I ask you something?" Priya said. "If there were no social pressures or family expectations and you could choose freely, what would you want to do?" Vikram considered this question seriously. "I would want to spend more time getting to know you as a person, not as a potential bride in a formal arrangement. I would want to see if we could develop genuine friendship and affection without the pressure of an impending wedding." "I feel exactly the same way," Priya admitted. They returned to the house to find both sets of parents anxiously waiting for them. The living room was full of relatives who were pretending to be occupied with other conversations, but were obviously curious about the delay in engagement preparations. "We need to talk to our parents privately," Vikram announced. In the privacy of Rajesh's small home office, they faced their parents with a proposal that surprised everyone. "We would like to postpone the engagement for 3 months, Priya said, firmly. "We want time to get to know each other properly without the pressure of an immediate commitment." "That's impossible," Mrs. Sharma responded immediately. "The engagement is tomorrow. Everything is arranged. We understand the complications this creates," Vikram said respectfully. "But we believe that taking this time now could prevent much bigger problems later." Mr. Sharma looked stern. "Vikram, this is not how marriages are arranged in our families. Once the families agree and preparations begin, the commitment is made. You can't just change your mind because of cold feet." "It's not cold feet, Papa," Vikram replied. "It's a desire to make sure we're making the right decision for everyone involved." Priya's father, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Beta, I understand your concerns, but think about the practical situation. We have guests coming from all over Maharashtra. The hall is booked, the priest is arranged, and we've spent considerable money on preparations. Beyond that, our reputation in the community is at stake. What if we go ahead with a small ceremony just for immediate family?" Priya suggested desperately. "We could explain to extended relatives that we wanted a simple engagement." The parents exchanged glances, and Priya could see them calculating the social and financial implications of various options. "Even a small ceremony commits you to the marriage," her mother pointed out. "You can't have an engagement and then decide later that you're not compatible." The discussion continued for 2 hours, with various family members joining and leaving the conversation. Some relatives supported giving the young couple more time, while others felt that their hesitation was a bad sign that suggested fundamental incompatibility. Finally, Priya's wise grandmother requested to speak with her privately. Priya's grandmother led her to the small prayer room where they could speak without interruption. The elderly woman's calm presence provided a stark contrast to the chaos and tension that had consumed the household. "Beta, sit with me," her grandmother said gently, patting the floor beside her. "I want to tell you something about my own marriage." Priya settled beside her grandmother, grateful for this moment of peace amid the family crisis. "When I was 18, my parents arranged my marriage. To your grandfather, I had never seen him before our wedding day. No meetings, no conversations, nothing. I was terrified and unhappy. But I had no choice in those days." "Were you ever happy in your marriage, Nani?" Priya asked softly. "Eventually, yes. Your grandfather was a good man, and we learned to love each other over many years. But Beta, times have changed. You have choices that I never had. The question is not whether you should use those choices, but how you should use them wisely." Her grandmother paused, looking thoughtfully at the small shrine in front of them. "I've been watching you and that boy, Vikram. You both seem like good people who are trying to do the right thing. But I can see that you're not ready for this commitment, and neither is he. But Nani, what about all the arrangements? What about Papa and Mama's reputation? Beta, a marriage built on fear of social embarrassment is not a strong foundation. Your parents love you and want your happiness, but they're also worried about what people will think. Sometimes we have to choose between keeping everyone comfortable and doing what's truly right. That evening, as the house filled with more arriving relatives, Priya made a decision that would require more courage than she had ever needed before. She asked for one final family meeting with both the Sharma and Gupta families. "I want to thank everyone for all the love, effort, and money that has been invested in this marriage," she began, her voice trembling but determined. "Both families have shown incredible generosity and kindness throughout this process." She looked directly at Vikram, who seemed to understand what she was about to say. However, after honest conversations with Vikram, we both feel that we need more time to know each other before making a lifelong commitment. We don't want to enter marriage with uncertainty and doubt, because that wouldn't be fair to anyone. The room erupted in various reactions. Some relatives looked shocked, others seemed understanding, and the parents appeared devastated. Mrs. Sharma stood up abruptly. "This is unacceptable. We have invested so much in this alliance, and now you want to back out at the last minute?" "We're not backing out permanently," Vikram interjected, supporting Priya's position. "We're asking for time to build a foundation of understanding before marriage." "How much time?" Mr. Sharma asked grimly. 6 months, Priya replied. 6 months to get to know each other as friends, without the pressure of wedding preparations. If at the end of that time we both feel confident about marriage, we can have the engagement then. Priya's father looked older than she had ever seen him. "Beta, this will create talk in the community. People will assume there's something wrong with either you or Vikram." "Let them talk, Papa," Priya said with surprising strength. "I would rather face gossip now than divorce later." The discussion that followed was painful and emotional. Tears were shed, voices were raised, and long-held family expectations were challenged. However, as the evening progressed, something unexpected happened. Several older relatives began sharing their own stories of rushed marriages that had led to problems, and a few younger cousins admitted they admired Priya's courage to speak up for what she needed. Uncle Kumar, despite his initial resistance, finally said, "Maybe the children are being more mature than we are. They're trying to build something solid rather than just following tradition blindly." By midnight, an exhausted but somewhat relieved family had reached a compromise that no one had anticipated at the beginning of the crisis. The engagement would be postponed indefinitely. Guests would be informed that the young couple wanted more time to know each other, which would be presented as a modern and thoughtful approach rather than a rejection of the marriage. The financial losses would be absorbed by both families, though some vendors agreed to hold deposits for future use. Most importantly, Priya and Vikram would have the time they needed to explore their compatibility without the pressure of imminent wedding preparations. 3 months later, Priya received a phone call that surprised her. It was Vikram, calling not because their families had arranged it, but because he genuinely wanted to talk to her. "Priya, I've been thinking a lot about our situation," he said. "I realize that the time apart has helped me understand something important." "What's that?" she asked, curious about his perspective. "I've realized that I do care about you, but maybe not in the way a husband should care about a wife. I think we could be good friends, but I'm not sure we're meant to be married to each other." Priya felt a mixture of sadness and relief. The months of uncertainty had helped her reach a similar conclusion. "I've been feeling the same way," she admitted. "I think we're both good people who could probably make an arranged marriage work, but neither of us feels the kind of connection that would make us truly happy together." "So, what do we tell our families?" Vikram asked. "The truth," Priya replied with new confidence. "That we gave it an honest chance, we developed respect and friendship for each other, but we don't feel ready for marriage." 6 months after the original engagement date, both families officially ended the marriage arrangement. While there was disappointment and some social awkwardness, The decision was ultimately accepted because it had been made thoughtfully and with mutual respect. Priya's parents, though initially hurt, eventually acknowledged that their daughter's insistence on taking time had prevented what could have been an unhappy marriage. They learned to appreciate her maturity and courage, even if they didn't fully understand her perspective. 2 years later, Priya met someone through her work who shared her interests and values. Their relationship developed naturally over time, and when they eventually married, it was with the complete confidence and joy that had been missing from her arranged marriage experience. Vikram also found someone who was better suited to his personality and lifestyle preferences. Both families learned valuable lessons about balancing tradition with individual choice, and about the importance of listening to young people's concerns rather than assuming that social arrangements would automatically lead to personal happiness. The experience taught everyone involved that sometimes the courage to say "not yet" or "not this" can lead to much better outcomes than simply following expected paths without question.